make sure you guys watch this video till the end. If you don't, that's not nice. Like, that's not nice. I tried so hard to make this for you guys. Okay, please, or at least, you know, watch about half of it. Even if you're not gonna use all the information, watch about half of it.
Turn it up.
Hi guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. My name is Esther and some of you already know that. So okay, I'm just gonna get right into the content. I'm gonna go over a couple of things related to the financial part of the Berea College application. The main thing I really want to go over is the personal statement of financial circumstances, as well as like the financial recommendation form. So yeah, at the same time I also want to talk about the whole thing with like total annual income and stuff along that side, just so that people kind of understand that, because I wasn't able to talk about that in the previous video. So basically, the part of what's your family's total annual income, in the previous video I put about $5,000. I put $5,000, and I can't remember, to be honest, what I put in my form at the time that I applied. It's weird because I thought that I kept a copy, like a PDF copies of my form, but maybe I actually have the paper copy. I don't know where that is, so I can't really start looking for that now. But I did write something that wasn't like too much, because at the time really it wasn't a lot, since it was just my mom and everything like that, so it wasn't like a lot of income. Probably something along this line of 5,000 that I wrote, definitely under $10,000. So I'm just using that to kind of set that, you know, kind of idea for you guys to know what's kind of the range that Berea is looking for. Obviously Berea doesn't want people who are like, you know, from a very well-to-do background, because I mean, it's possible if you originally started that way or something like that and then something happened, but the thing is your current status has to be in a position where you do need financial support in terms of like your tuition and stuff like that. It's a need-based financial aid. Also, you might be considered well-to-do in your country, but if it's not enough for, you know, you to maybe go to the college that you want to go to, or if your income is not even close to like the US average annual income, then they're gonna look at it from that perspective usually. But also, I'm sure they do know that living like standards are very different in different parts of the world, so you want to have that in mind as well, and not put something that would be considered still a lot of money, you know, in your country. I don't know how to explain it, but I think that's just, you just have to have that balance. That's how I see it. So that's why I'm like, $5,000 is definitely not a lot of money, whether you're in Nigeria or you're in America. So you have to think about it in terms of like your country's currency as well as the USD. Another thing that matters is like your family size, the number of people that are dependent on your family. All of these things go into consideration as to what is considered like a lot of money and stuff like that. But I would say, like I said, the main thing is kind of like in terms of like the USD. That's why you're converting it to the USD. If it's not a lot of money, if it's low thousands, like 5,000 to 10,000, that's definitely not a lot of money. So that's something that would meet Berea's requirement of somebody that needs financial aid. So I cannot tell you for sure that this is the number they look at and they cut you off, or this is the number specifically that they look at and they're like, yeah, come on in, because I'm not in the admissions team, you know, and we cannot use the domestic standard directly, like say exactly like go on the website and be like, okay, this is the minimum for domestic students, and if they earn more they can come to Berea. You can't use that for yourself, because what is considered little money here can still be considered a lot of money in your country's currency and your country's standard of living. So you just have to think about it. So just kind of make sure that your income kind of falls within the reasonable range of something that's not considered, I guess, too much money. That's just all I'm gonna say. I don't know how else to explain it. Then also the other part, which says does your family own a house. Some people might feel like they don't want to say if their family owns a home, because that might show that they have money or they're wealthy or whatever, but that's not necessarily so. I mean, in my situation it was very easy for me to say that my family owned a home, and like we also talked about like land and buildings and stuff like that, because I talked about my story, how when my dad was alive things were definitely way better compared to when it was just my mom, and so that's why we're able to afford to have this kind of house with this kind of value and things like that. So it was reasonable with my story, and so you have to look at your own story and see, okay, you have a house, what's the value of the house? It has to be reasonable based on your situation. So there's nothing wrong with stating that you have a house, that your family has a home. It's okay. If your home you know, has a lower value or whatever, just put it. And obviously if it's lower, it's definitely better. And if you don't have a home too, that's definitely also more opportunity for you to show that, you know, your family is not able to afford a home. I hope this is kind of helpful. I hope this is kind of making sense, because I'm just trying to explain as best as possible, because it's not a black and white situation. This is money. It's not a black and white like this money is okay and this money is not okay. Every situation is different, so you just have to kind of think about the best way to present your situation. Then land and buildings, the same thing. It's okay to have those things, but it has to be reasonable in terms of your own personal circumstances. Then does the family own automobiles? I don't think that this would also affect your situation. And also employment, your family can employ people. Just having business doesn't mean that you're okay. It doesn't mean that you're well to do enough to go to college. All those things are very specific to each situation. So now the personal statement of financial circumstances, I kind of went over it in my previous video, but the main thing here is that you are just kind of going into more details about your financial circumstances, because you might have gone into details enough in your personal statement. I might not need to go into much details here, but if you feel like you do, you have more than enough space to write all the things you need to write. Because in my own situation, when I did talk about like my dad passing away and how it affected the financial situation in my family, I talked about it in my personal statement, but I only kind of went into it a little bit. I didn't go too much into it because it wasn't about that. It was about my own story. So it was like I didn't want to focus too much on talking about how this happened to my family and that happened to my family like only. I wanted to talk about every other thing that I did, which is my own achievements and all of that. So that's why I couldn't go that much in depth into it in that place. But in the personal statement of financial circumstances, there was a place for me to really talk about the you know, financial situation in my family. And here you're not expected to write a lot. It's additional information. It can just be, you know, just more in-depth based on what you think that you want to add here. I think I also recall I talked about my mom's health, because my mom's health is like, she would always go through a lot of health issues. I did talk about how because of that she's not even able to do as much as you would want to. You know, it just kind of gives you an idea of the kind of things that you might want to write in yours. And then the final part is the financial resources confirmation form, or the financial recommendation form, which is basically the one that somebody's going to fill for you. I remember that when I did mine, it was my pastor that actually filled this for us. We just felt like he was a good person to do that, because he kind of knew a family situation quite well. He did show me the things that he wrote, but I can't remember precisely the things that he wrote. It's kind of intuitive. This is somebody that knows your family pretty well, and so they can kind of tell what's your primary source of family income. Even though they might not know the exact source of income, they kind of have an idea, and because of that they can kind of ask you like, where exactly does all the income come from, you know, that kind of thing. They might just ask you for confirmation, but they have to know you well enough to kind of have a general idea of what's going on. Because if it's somebody that doesn't really know you, it would show in the way they write, like this person is just beating around the bush, and you do not want that, because it can affect your application. The first part that says how long have you known the applicant, you want somebody that's known your family for a long time. Obviously the longer the better. Just find somebody that knows you as long as possible, at least some number of years, definitely. And then potential barriers to pursuit of higher education. So all of this, I cannot remember, like I said, I can't remember exactly what, you know, we wrote here, because I didn't get to keep it. But the potential barriers to pursuit of higher education, this is just basically talking about as a result of like your low income, what does this person think can affect, you know, you being able to go to college. So they can say something like, oh, because of your family's low financial situation, you have had to stay at home and take care of your siblings because, you know, they could not afford to take them to daycare, and you had to take care of them and you can go to school. I'm just saying, you know, it could be anything, and that's just one story. Let this person go as in-depth as possible with any situation that might be going on in your family that would obviously affect your pursuit of higher education. It could even also be something like you live in a community that's not safe enough for you to go to college. Okay, so because for example, there are some parts of Nigeria like where like there's Boko Haram, which is like the terrorists, you know, in the northern part of Nigeria. I've never been a victim of that, but then there's people who live in those parts of the country who, even if they were able to go to like maybe public schools or whatever, they can't go to public schools because there's like a lot of terrorism and that's going to affect their safety and they can't go to school. So that kind of situation, they can mention that there, you know, something like that. There might be safety issues, there might be gender issues. Maybe if you're from a place where it's very hard for you to go to school because you're female or something like that, then you know, you can use anything, but also relate it obviously to your financial situation. Because okay, since you cannot go to school in your city or your town or your state because of all these problems, you can't even afford to leave, you can't even afford to go to another state because your family cannot afford it. So things like that, this person might know about you and be able to write all of those things there. Then additional insight is basically just any other extra information that they want to write, because the previous parts are kind of limited. The previous parts are more focused to specific information that Berea is asking, such as what's your primary source of income, other sources of income, as well as like the potential barriers. But this could be anything else that this person wants to say about you. It could be something like, I was telling someone the other time in the comment section, maybe this person is your teacher and they've seen situations whereby you came to school but you didn't have everything you needed. Maybe you didn't get all your textbooks because your family wasn't able to afford the textbooks for you or all the materials that you needed. They can say something like that, just any extra information that they want to add about your situation. And I'm very sure if this person can't think of any, you can come together and think together and come up with something, because you know yourself better than anybody else. When I applied, this section was not there, this additional insight section, so I didn't have to think about that, even though I didn't feel it, but I didn't have to think about that. Definitely always good to have a spot for you to give more and more information, because I feel like we always have more to say anyways, especially in this kind of situation. Okay, so in the ranking section, I believe like this is one of the strongest places for this person to really reflect, you know, some things that they know about you. So for example, the family's financial resources, once you start to go above average, I think that kind of makes you like, you're not too bad. I can't remember what this person wrote during my time. It was a long time ago. I would think that anything when you start to get to above average, that's kind of like okay. So even average, I don't know how I feel about average, but for sure if you're below average or poor, then definitely you know that you stand more chances. So I'm not gonna give you a specific thing that this person has to choose here. It's up to them to determine what's best for you, or if you guys put heads together and talk, because if something goes wrong, I don't want to be held responsible, okay? So I'm just trying to analyze it like from a logical perspective. Academic achievements, oh, they need to go all the way up. Obviously the higher the better. I know that in my case he either wrote among the strongest in class or among the strongest I've ever known. I think he probably wrote among the strongest I've ever known, because I was not in his class or anything. He was my pastor, so he most likely wrote among the strongest I've ever known. So this person's gonna hype you up, okay? Then access to higher education definitely has to be more on the lower end, because obviously that shows that you do have a need for financial aid. So I mean, that's pretty much it. So you guys, I'm pretty sure people already kind of know what to do here, but they just want to be sure from the perspective of somebody that's kind of walked this path, and I understand that. So I do really hope that you guys are able to sort this out, and I hope that even though my information was not as specific, because I'm not on the admissions committee, I'm just giving you my own personal opinions, I hope that it would somehow be helpful and probably provide some clarity to your situation. Let me know any other information that you guys would need. Doesn't matter if it's for this year application or for like later, if people are applying later, just let me know what you need. Then finally, I do have an announcement coming up soon, and I've just been thinking of the way I'm gonna tell you guys. It has to do with YouTube, so it's not like, you know, I won a lottery or something. I'm just going to let you guys know very soon, actually, very soon. I just need to kind of know how I'm going to announce it. But anyways, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.